What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Talk of the Tundra, Green Bay Packers podcast, a proud partner of the Eurostep Podcast Network and the Blue Wire family. As always, I am your host, Numac, and joining me today is my lovely, illustrious co-host, Jordan Tresky. Jordan, how you doing, buddy?
Doing well. How about yourself?
I'm plugged. I'm plugged up,
Plugged.
I got a lot of stuff in my nose right now, and it's none too fun. So I apologize to listeners if I sound plugged.
Numac Unplugged is going to be like when you just don't have a cold anymore.
That's right. There's gonna be no concert. There's gonna be no album about Numac Unplugged. It's just gonna be me breathing thoroughly through my nose. But enough about my general health, physical health. We'll get into my mental health in a minute, talking about Aaron Rodgers trades discussions at the annual meeting in Glendale. uh, Brian Gutenkunst, Joe Douglas both gave talks on their respective franchises as well as the status of the Aaron Rodgers trade. And Matt LaFleur also sat down at a little tiny cocktail table with all of the reporters. I'm not sure if you saw that, Jordan, but
I did.
they packed that man into a table and put all the mics on the table for his interview. Uh, and he gave sort of a general overview of the franchise as well. And not so much Rodgers talk, but more general Packers talk. So we're going to break down most of that today. I guess we'll start with the Rodgers stuff and start with Gutey and start with Joe Douglas on the other side. Basically, as you can imagine, the Packers media members were asking all of the questions about Rodgers, about compensation, about when um, when he tried reaching out to, not when he tried reaching out, but why. Let me back up. Why is that exactly? Rodgers went on McAfee and said that they were shopping him around. Goody came back and said, well, no shopping really happened. Basically, we couldn't reach Aaron Rodgers, which I'm not sure if you saw this, Jordan, but Matt Schneeman had quite the tweet afterwards that wasn't serious, talking about how if Razul was manning Aaron Rodgers' phone during the the lead up to the McAfee show, that Razul tanked Rodgers' career in Green Bay. Was a very, very funny tweet.
I did not see that tweet.
Yeah, basically,
Hmm.
basically playing off since Razul was saying he had Aaron Rodgers' phone leading up to the Pat McAfee announcement. That he's like, well, if he had it, was he not passing along messages, et cetera, et cetera? He's like, but please don't take this tweet seriously. So it was pretty good. Um, but I guess the biggest thing for me that came out of the Goody talks, we'll get into a lot of it, but I didn't say who asked, but somebody asked when the mindset shift was coming on away from Rodgers signing his extension last year and wanting Rodgers to finish, and Goody wanting Rodgers to finish his career in Green Bay, versus uh, now moving on from him and basically allowing him to be traded and letting the Jets tamper before the free agency period started. And he said it came out of the disappointing season and having talks with players, coaches, and just people in the organization. He went to go talk to Aaron Rodgers about his fit within the team and his future with the team, and it never transpired. So I can't say I'm surprised, but I am a little bit, given what we know about Aaron Rodgers. I guess, what is your thoughts on that report, Jordan, that Goody couldn't even get a hold of Rodgers throughout most of the offseason?
Um, Sounds plausible.
Right.
Um, it's I don't like. We're at the point of this where things have extended on. There has been a deal. I mean, this would happen probably even if there were, you know, the deal was already done. If we're being honest, there's always going to be that he said, Goody said
Right.
that exists here. Based on how the offseason has been, and Aaron has made it very clear how, I mean, he was out there and then he went into the darkness retreat, which he very much publicized. There wasn't just that, it wasn't like there was a lot of opportunity to have talks based on other things that were going on, like playing a golf event that he adjusted his handicap, as Adam McGee would like for us to point out. Then the director's retreat, and then it was like a week later or whatever it was, 10 days later, going into Pat McAfee and saying, I want to play for the Jets and all that stuff. So, like, whatever, not to repeat myself, but like whatever opportunity that you could really sit down and have talks and all this stuff beyond just like exit interviews, because all players do that.
Right.
It's much easier when you have a clear eye, clear mind and clear eyes. Can't lose, whatever that
I was gonna
stupid
say,
phrase
is there a full heart in there somewhere?
um, so yeah, like yeah, I don't think that. I think the point here is that I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing.
Right.
It was very much clear, or made very clear by Rodgers himself from the Pat McAfee interview that it was either he's retiring or he's playing for the Jets. There was no scenario in his mind that existed that he would play again for the Packers. Maybe in part due to things that he made up himself, maybe due to actual feelings that they had as an organization. Who There's no one thing to pinpoint it. It was just that is what the feeling, or that is what existed from his standpoint. And it's not like the Packers have come away with this from like kicking and screaming. Both
Right.
sides have acted very, I guess, appropriately based on how things have gone.
Right. And to be fair to Rodgers, I don't think going into the offseason for him it was retirement or Jets. I think for him it was retirement. Because he said that going into like his retreat that he was like 90-10 retiring. And then when he came out and found out that he was being air quotes shopped, um, that's when that sort of mindset changed. He became more open to playing and playing for the Jets. So I think there was a reality probably earlier in the offseason, a week or so after it, that he could have came back and played for the Packers this year. And he still might. That door is not closed, as Gutey made sure to say during his presser. But yeah, I just don't. I don't know. Like you said at the beginning of your statement, it's plausible that this happened, right? Like I think it was said a couple times that Rodgers didn't really focus on football in the immediate aftermath of the offseason. He kind of just took a break from football, like you said, went golfing, had his retreat, and didn't really get back in the swing of things until after his retreat and had a couple workouts. And he didn't really want to talk football that much. Like I think that he said that pretty often on the Pat McAfee show and just in general to people in interviews on podcasts and et cetera, et cetera. So for these conversations to happen, there wasn't really a huge window, as you said, for Gutey and Rodgers to talk about the future of Rodgers with the program or with the franchise. And as Gutey said in his press conference at the annual meeting, at some point he has to do his job, right? Like it's if he's not having communication with Rodgers despite efforts, then he kind of has to figure out what he's going to do with this unresponsive quarterback. So all in all, it's more of the same, but we're starting to get a clearer picture of how and why this went down, as opposed to just Rodgers' side or just Source's side coming from media members. So
Also, I guess I'm holding two pens.
I was gonna say, why are you pointing two pens at me?
Two pens. There is the communication and relationship between Gutenkunst and Aaron Rodgers. The other part of this that no one really talks about, but probably existed, is I don't feel like it's just blank. I feel like there was communication probably through Aaron's agent about certain parameters. And maybe this is
Yeah,
reckless speculation or whatever, but like you can still feel out how someone feels or where their thoughts are through your agent. And
right,
maybe that, yeah, I mean, like that's kind of like another part of it, as we are publicly seen in a very different case involving a former MVP that is not represented by the agent and all that stuff that's going on with Lamar Jackson.
right.
No.
Yeah, I think that Goody said that they had like talks with Rodgers' agency and his agent leading up or afterwards, once they kind of figured out that he didn't want to play for them anymore, and through like this not talking. But I don't think that was like confirmed. Of okay, Goody's talking to Rodgers' agent, but not Rodgers. I don't think that was confirmed through his his presser. Um, Furthermore, in the trade talk, as we power through all of the Rodgers speculation, compensation obviously was a huge topic that media asked both Gutey and Joe Douglas at the annual meeting. Gutey said that the ball is currently in the Jets' court, and so he didn't answer one way or the other of whether or not there's a standing offer from the Jets or if there's an offer on the table. Neither one of the GMs got into the nitty gritty of what they've offered or what they've rejected, et cetera, et cetera. But I think the two biggest things that came out of the, I guess, the compensation talk was that 13 wasn't a necessity for Gutey in the trade, but that he talked about how a premier player needed premier value out of a trade. So I guess that was one of the biggest points. I want to get your reaction to it. I guess what was your thought on seeing that the Gutey's not make or breaking the deal on a first round pick?
I think it makes sense. I think this is intertwined with the second point that I think you're about to get to, and that came out late Monday night into Tuesday morning, from Charles Robinson of Yahoo Sports, of
Yep.
like just where things stand between both sides, and that even though there's not a deal done, it's not like that they're so far apart that like it's there's a long road ahead. It's very not minute details because it's what is coming down to negotiations, but like the fact that here I'll
Yeah,
just
but
pull from
get
his
into the
article right now.
Charles Robinson.
Yep.
Get into his report of what came out on Monday.
Quote, as it stands, talks are focused on the Jets dealing 2 picks for the Packers quarterback, 1 second-round pick in next month's NFL draft, and another second rounder in 2024 that could graduate to a first-round pick with a quote-unquote achievable team performance escalators.
Which
Those would include
I think.
um,
Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
to host if the Jets hosted a divisional playoff game or if they advanced to the AFC Championship game. And then he adds a sticking point in the talks is the Jets seeking an element of protection built into the trade, specifically one that sends some 2025 draft compensation to New York from Green Bay if Rodgers does not play in 2024 and beyond.
Which I'd imagine is them kind of saving their butt on Rodgers' dead
Yes.
cap should it get
Yep.
there. Which, like, I understand, but I guess what are your thoughts on that package? Because I go back and forth between how I feel about a second and a second for Rodgers. Again, no players, just a second and a second.
I mean, I know it's tough because we just you see all the high impact names that have already been traded for not premier value. Jalen Ramsey went for a fifth. Darren Waller went for a third.
Yeah.
Um, there was another big trade that I'm forgetting. Stephon Gilmore is not in that class of player anymore, but like we're talking about, premier skill players. Now you're talking about a cornerstone quarterback that even for a year, like the Jets have no backup options. They have
Right.
already said that Zach Wilson's going to be their number 2 quarterback, and they have 2 quarterbacks on their roster as we talk currently.
Right.
So yeah, naturally you would want a first rounder to equal that. But like we talked about a couple weeks ago, when kind of comparing this to the Favre deal, kind of similar things are in place because the Jets don't want to get burned
Right.
by Rodgers maybe being like, okay, basically they don't want to see what is going on right now and being like, that is what we are going to be in 12 months.
Right. Right.
That kind of thing.
I'm cautiously optimistic at the deal. like I guess that's not even the right way to phrase it. I am I go back and forth as I mentioned between being okay with two second round picks, one this year, one next year, and some other compensation package like a first and a second or whatever you want to call it. That's better than 2 seconds. I think a lot of my hesitancy comes from the immediate value that would be able to extract from it because like there are good players at 13 that's obvious. And I think there's good players in the second round. Like between 43 and 45 I think is what they have. Um as I bring up the order real quick. Yeah, or I'm sorry, 42 and 43 is what the Jets have. 42 is from the Browns. 43 is their own pick. But part of me wishes we just had 13, 15, obviously, because as Gutey mentioned it in his presser later, it's a really nice coincidence for the Packers that besides safety, that the things that they need, their needs on the team, have really great depth this draft. Tight end, edge, both wide receiver, all really
Yep.
like deep drafts this year. And so it'd be really cool, really awesome if they could get two of those holes filled right at 13 and 15. And I guess the difference between that and 42 and then picking it at 45 is just that obviously this is obvious analysis. The caliber of the player. I think my personal strife with it is that I really think Darnell Washington is a positive player for this team, and I do not think he'll be there at 42 or 45. I think that's the biggest thing, is that they have an opportunity to draft a tight end that could really help them for a long term in the future. Excuse me. And if they can't get him, then it's tough. You start getting into a bunch of chances. So I'd be okay with it. Do I want the first? Obviously, I think like the best middle ground would be the two firsts, or I'm sorry, the 2 seconds this year
Yeah.
and next year. The one I would appreciate more would even be like a swap of 13 and 15, and then a pick this year or a pick next year, like the second round ones. Like, I think I'd be okay with the second round picks, like the one this year, one next year, if they swap 13, 15. I'd be really okay with that, honestly. Because between 13 and 15 is where I get nervous because it goes Jets, Patriots, Packers. And if they could, I wouldn't even mind trading whatever, like 15 or 13 up to 10 or 11 just to make sure we can get the pick we want because Eagles, Titans, Texans, Jets, Patriots, Packers has a lot of opportunity for Jackson Smith, Najigba, or Darnell Washington to go, or I don't think he goes that high, but he could. Or really any of these guys that are really good, like Peter Skoronski from Northwestern as a lineman if they want to go lineman. There's just a lot of opportunity for the Packers to miss out on players that could really, really, really benefit their team if they stay at 15. So I'm trying to see the positive in it all, essentially. But
Yeah, I mean, I until we have some, I mean, until a deal is made, we are both in agreement. I think a lot of Packers fans are. It's like, yeah, to get 13 or whatever machination is, to get as many first round picks, that is this sexy thing. That is gonna be the things that really headline
real hot.
Thursday night, real hot. Um, but to your point, they have so many areas on the roster that they have to address.
Yeah, absolutely.
And this is part of your, it's not, if they're not going to call it a rebuild, but this is a different era.
Yep.
And as people have talked about since Rodgers wanting to leave and all this stuff, like that, everything really jump started by strong drafts
Yeah.
when that transition was made. And if fortune favors the bold. It's not about just, oh, let's get the top picks. That's not even really how the Packers kind of operate either. They value what they do internally of scouting guys, try to make a jump on guys, whether you call it reaching or whatever,
Right.
but they identify the prospects that they want to bring in and develop and all that stuff. So like, yeah, I'm not beholden to 13 or anything like this. At this point, I just want to see a deal done, and then it's really, for me, it's all about who and how, like, the players that they pick, how they can really, I guess, turn this ship around or build for the future.
Right. On the flip side, we'll get to like I want to talk more about Goody's comments in a second and just general team building. But on the flip side, Joe Douglas was not as forthcoming as Goody was. His presser was like less than half the time that his what than Goody's was, but a lot of repeating the company line, which is they're gonna let the process play out. So Joe Douglas said he's optimistic that there's no hard deadline for a deal to get done, and that there's not a ton of urgency from the Jets. It seems that they're ready to wait this out.
Cross that with Woody Johnson's comments.
Go ahead if you have them.
I do. Well, I think we're anxious. We're anxious.
Right. So nice job from the owner. Really,
Really backing up your boy.
really backing up your boy. Really putting that leverage to work. Um, they talked about the 13th pick, and Joe Douglas didn't really answer the question of is 13 off the table. So it would make it seem like it isn't, but at the same time, he wasn't very forthcoming in any of his information. But he talked about how there's a lot of opportunity, obviously, to bring in a quality player that can really impact the team at 13. So, yeah, not a whole lot from Joe Douglas. Just, again, that they are comfortable where they're at, and they're going to let it play out. So, hopefully we get an answer a month from now when the draft is done.
Yeah.
Moving on a little bit, a lot of the ancillary talk was about Jordan Love. And part of the compensation talk from Gutey was really surrounding or going all about how they really want to have all the picks. Like, I forget what the question was, but Gutey got all excited. He said, "Yeah, I want all the picks. Like, he just wants to pick as many players as you want, obviously." But, well, no, I'm sorry, it wasn't Gutey. It was LaFleur had talked about just making sure that expectations for Jordan Love are tempered. He's not going to slot in and be Aaron Rodgers, be Brett Favre. It's going to take some time, which is expected. Which is why I think this trade matters so much. Getting as much help as you can to have Jordan Love succeed in these next 2 years, which was echoed by Matt Schneeman in his recap of the annual meeting, is critical. And so there was talks about how they need to add to the wide receiver room, whether it be through a vet or through the draft. I want to get your take. Gutey said that they quote really like Tyler Davis and Josiah DeGuara. Do you think that's warranted / company talk / just hyping up your guys, or do you think that maybe they actually do really like them and that they're just comfortable riding with them as well as getting one in the draft? Because he said somebody asked, are they drafting tight end on like day 2 or something? He said, oh, you never know. So it seemed like he's not showing his hand, but they're definitely drafting a tight end at some point.
Yeah. I do think it's company man kind of thing. You want to, I mean, they brought Tyler Davis back for a reason when,
Yeah.
At one of their previous tight ends is already signed and one that's remained unsigned. DeGuara, I mean, dating back to when he was drafted, I mean, it made sense for this offense. And considering that we had talked about, we haven't seen like the full LaFleur offense, getting someone of his versatility and hopefully health is on his side, I think, it's not the sky is the limit, but you could see a valuable player there or useful player there for someone like Jordan Love that just needs not just the uh, pass catching weapon, but like he needs his own Mercedes Lewis,
Yeah,
and
exactly.
it's a lot to ask of a fourth year tight end who it hasn't put it all together, whether it's through his fault or not his fault at all. Um, it's tough. I mean, we're all going to be looking for a tight end that's in the draft regardless. You know what I
Yep.
mean? Like you just want to see some added depth there, even if it's a very young tight end room. But
Right.
for what they have right now, like it's not that I'm completely out on those guys. I think
No.
I just don't think that they're the most, polished by any means, but that's
Yep.
part of the point too.
Yeah, I think it's a lot of just certainty when it comes to that position. Like, could Tyler Davis and Josiah DeGuara be impact players and make a step towards becoming uh, a real part of this offense? Absolutely. But it's the gauge of how likely is that given what we know already versus um, being able to work with a new rookie who is one of the top tight ends in his class and seeing how he could fit in more smoothly throughout the preseason camp and or throughout camp, mini camp, all of the offseason activities to be an impact player year one. So, um, all that is to say to go with Jordan Love that there's also been a lot of hype around him working out with the current Packers. I think I saw a report last week that he was working out with Christian Watson, Romeo Doubs, and Aaron Jones out in California. And then I saw a report today that he was, or it was an Instagram story or something today that he was working out with Aaron Jones. So
Yes.
I think I forget if we talked about this last week or not. So my apologies if it's for repeating things, but man, it just feels good. It just feels good to see these things happening as opposed to Rodgers not coming to OTAs or not going to preseason minicamp or anything like that, just because he's a veteran who didn't need all that work.
Buckle up, Jets fans. This is where you're getting.
Right, but it just feels good to see Jordan Love putting in that work and that seeing that the specialists around him are also willing to get him to a place where he needs to be for this season because obviously Jordan Love is plays the most important position in sports and it's his job to make this offense go in large part, but he needs buy-in from the people he's throwing to from his offense he's working with, and to see the obviously like I said these very important players buying in with him in their offseason when they could be vacationing, could be doing anything else literally, to go out there work with them to get that chemistry up is really cool. I'm hoping it all works out this season and that uh, we get a real chance to see this offense click.
Yes, absolutely.
Trying to see what else we should touch on when it comes to Routers and Love. I don't know if there's too much else besides the fact that I hope this reaches everybody in Packers Nation. We all just need to, like, hopefully chill once the season comes on Jordan Love, because it'll be an up and down season, probably. Most likely. It's not going to be a linear progression throughout his career. There'll be
Never
some
is.
there'll be some bumps. Oh, we should talk about backup QB. Um,
Yes.
I think LaFleur and Gutey both said that they would prefer a vet, but it's not necessary. I think when Rodgers came in, it was Brian Brown and Matt Flynn, from what Gutey said. But the veteran QBs available are not too inspiring. It's like Carson Wentz.
I have the names in front of me.
Okay, go ahead.
Carson Wentz is one of them. Teddy Bridgewater, Mason Rudolph, Blaine Gabbert, Trevor Simeon, and the ageless Brian Hoyer, who we learned what was his name.
Oh, what was his name?
Why I was very tickled by it. Axel. Axel.
Axel.
Yeah, there we
Axel.
go.
Um, I wouldn't be too upset with Teddy Bridgewater. I think he could help
I think
Love in a certain.
Bridgewater it's not a sexy name,
I don't
but
know. Teddy kind of wets my whistle if you're asking me.
out of context coming now. Yeah, I do think that would probably be the best of the bunch, honestly. Like, I don't think any of those guys that if you're thrust into that's the only that or it's not the only lens you should be looking at from because
Yeah,
you want a guy that
can play too.
you want a guy that could play, but you want a guy that could accept and kind of like take him under his wing. I think that was like who's the Falcons signed what's his name? Taylor Heinecke, and it was like a big
Yes,
it was like a bigger deal.
14
Like
million, 2 years, eight, I think 8 and
which
6.
and they just named Desmond Ritter.
Their starter, yeah.
Yeah, which that's a lot of money.
It is a
But
lot of money, but I think to the point you're trying to make is that Taylor Heinecke can be that guy to take Desmond Ritter under his wing and kind of be in that he has experience of where he is, of where Desmond Ritter is, but also can go out and win a game if need be. Like
yeah,
if push comes to shove and Desmond Ritter gets hurt, Taylor Heineke's experience in the NFL can win games, et cetera, et cetera.
yeah, um, yeah. I don't. That's the one thing is that it's not like they have spent a lot in free agency. Um, if you're making that a priority to get a backup quarterback, you're probably gonna have to deal with like a decent sized payday at this point to get any of those. I guess Bridgewater being the top name on the of that list.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, so
Joe
that's the one
Flacco's
thing I would
available
say.
too for a year if you really wanted to go that route.
Switch Jets quarterbacks.
Right. If
Let's
you
do it.
like if you really wanted to go that route, that's not a terrible pickup for a year either. Like Joe Flacco has the knowledge, has the experience to really show Jordan Love what it takes to be a pro's pro kind of thing. Um, but yeah, other than that, it's not. There's not a lot of them
Yeah.
besides like random guys between like Nathan Peterman or Trace McSorley or Brett Ripien. Like it's just a lot of not a lot of QBs currently. I think there's 18 available quarterbacks, so not great.
Mm.
Matt Ryan, if you're willing to bring in Matt Ryan for an offseason, that wouldn't be a terrible thing. I think it's the same. It's the same. Like you give me that.
I forgot that
You give me that.
he's out there.
You give me that look. But that's the same thing as what Joe Flacco would be. Like it's the same exact thing as
It just
backup.
would be so weird to
It,
see him.
it would be so weird, but it's not like he was any better than what Joe Flacco would have done last year with the Jets. Like the
Yeah.
Colts were not good last year.
No. Remember when they yeah, never mind.
Right. So and he's a year younger than Flacco, so if you want to keep him on for like 2 years, I wouldn't even be upset that that's what they would do. Like I think that might actually be where they go if they go anywhere, because there's no one really looking for QB at this point. Obviously, that's kind of why the Packers are in this situation with the Jets, and so I think that's what I'm hitching my wagon to is either Joe Flacco or Matt Ryan for Jordan Love to have a veteran to go under a wing for a season, maybe two.
I'm pulling for Teddy. Kind of surprised he's still a free agent.
I
If I'm
think
being
in
honest.
order, it's Matt Ryan, Teddy Bridgewater, Joe Flacco. Just because that's how I see the tiers of quarterback.
From my eyes, if they enter a game and Jordan Love gets hurt.
More or less, yeah, but
Okay,
also
okay.
from the perspective of like, yes, Joe Flacco has the Super Bowl win. Like he has that over Matt Ryan. But Matt Ryan was like a better quarterback throughout his career, has more experience throwing to like better receivers essentially. Teddy Bridgewater has the experience of going through um, trials and tribulations of a quarterback. Like he went through the injuries, he went through being a backup, becoming a starter, all this stuff. Like he has the NFL experience, not the winning part. Ignore that part. But he has all the other stuff that goes into being a quarterback and being a quarterback in the NFL for what almost a decade now. So I think Joe Flacco would be fine as well. Like that's where I'm at for my reasoning on that order of quarterbacks.
Yeah, I get it. I get it. I get it.
Um, Anything else on Love? It hurts.
No, I think um, a lot of it's going to be TBD. I think they want to. It's not just about temporary expectations for him, but they still got to give him some help. You
Yeah.
mentioned LaFleur wanted to kind of bring in a more veteran-minded receiver on the roster because they sure could use it. Um, yeah, I think it's going to be an evolving story the next couple of weeks as the transition takes place.
Yeah. On the receiving part, because we can kind of move on to the rest of the team. I think a veteran receiver is like a pretty critical part of this team. Excuse
And
me.
no Sammy Watkins.
Right.
That is because it's easy to be like, oh, we want a veteran receiver, but then it's like Sammy
A
Watkins
veteran
was that
receiver
for them last year.
that can contribute.
Yeah.
And so part of that is like Corey Davis from the Jets. Like that would be a good veteran receiver to bring in. A guy that can show the rookies, the former rookies, the ropes essentially to say, hey, a pointer here, a pointer there. Also just like teach them how to be solid pros. I'm trying to look. Excuse my stuffiness. It's really bad right now. Um, Kenny Galladay is a guy out there that I wouldn't mind either. Not so much as to the instruction, just as the another person. Julio Jones is a receiver that's available. Jordan, what would you think if the Packers brought in Julio Jones to be a mentor towards Christian Watson and Romeo Dobbs?
I would like to see Julio as much as he could be, but I'm trying to find. I'm not really answering your question. I was like, I'm trying to find the top free agent wide receivers left, and it is Slim Pickens,
You
boy.
want me to run through what
Oh,
I have for you?
yeah,
It's not in any particular order, so I'm going to kind of go through
yeah.
them as I see them. Uh, Robbie Anderson, Kenny Galladay, Randall Cobb.
Chosen Anderson. Sorry.
What?
Chosen Anderson.
Yep. Chosen Anderson. You're right. My apologies. Randall Cobb, who we don't think is coming back. Um, N'Keal Harry is available. Jarvis Landry, wouldn't mind him. Um, Rashard Higgins, DeAndre Carter. Man, it gets kind of slim here towards the end. T.Y. Hilton
Jake
and Odell
Jake
Beckham.
Kumaro.
He's going to the Jets. That's their mandatory signing. But
Yeah,
Jarvis Landry is
it's
a good one. That'd be
Jarvis Landry is definitely. I believe the Packers were interested in him.
a couple 2 years ago.
I forget. Yeah, that's
Trading
right.
for him from the Browns, right?
Yeah,
Yeah. So that wouldn't be a terrible pickup. A slot receiver that can catch the ball and really let these guys know what it takes to be an NFL receiver. Like, there's options out there for the Packers, and I think that's what is so, I guess, intriguing about the Rodgers trade eventually happening, is that it kind of opens up all of their ideas of what they're going to do. And I think getting a vet receiver in there is pretty important, as we mentioned. But the options they have available are also pretty good. Like, I'd be okay with bringing in a wash Julio Jones and a semi-wash Jarvis Landry just to teach these guys the ropes. Truly, honestly,
yeah.
and whatever
Galladay.
and whatever wide receiver they draft, if they draft one. Like, I imagine they're going to, and just having the guy there that can really show them what's what is going to be really important.
Galladay seems like a nice buy low guy.
I agree.
Like he was very talented for a long time in Detroit, and you know he got saddled with getting a big free agent deal, which 10 times out of 10 you take any time if you're a free agent,
Yeah,
and it ended the worst way possible.
yeah, it did.
Um, yeah,
Sadly, whatever. It happens, but I think it also came at the fact that he kind of got like the worst years of Daniel Jones, and
yeah.
just was never able to um, really find that.
He also didn't have the greatest coaches in place to
Yeah,
really be successful. That's
yeah.
part of. I mean, Debo walks in the door, and the Giants instantly become competent.
Playoff team.
Yeah.
Um, anything else on the Office? I don't think so. I think the only other thing of note, you can correct me if I'm wrong, since my brain is surrounded by snot right now, was the Mason Crosby comments from Gutey. They're not. He said they're never closing the door on Mason, but admitted that they have cap troubles with him, and so I guess it's a big we'll see this entire offseason on Mason Crosby. I've given my thoughts at length here about Mason Crosby and the decision to bring him back, but I think it's the same as I guess the idea. Sorry, my brain is not doing well. I can't put a thought together. The same idea that I had about Mason Crosby is what I think the same idea is that Goody has about bringing
Yes.
Mason Crosby back. This that it's not entirely all of their own possibility, but also is not so much likely.
Yeah. Interesting. Interesting comments all the same.
Yeah, I think for sure it will come down to probably Mayish time, May June before we actually get a decision. But from that, I guess we'll just have to wait. I'm sure. I bet you they draft one for sure.
Yes. And the thing too is that we have to keep in mind Gutenkunst was I would say bullish about Crosby a few weeks ago when he was talking about like he kind of thought that if he would come back it would be um he would bounce back, and he had off-season surgery, which obviously affected his leg strength and all this stuff that he was talking about. And to see again comments change
Right.
as the off-season has gone on, maybe that has informed where he is, set.
Right. So I guess we'll see. I guess we'll see. Um, anything else, Jordan? I'm trying to go through my notes here, and I don't know if there's anything else on out of the annual meetings. Players can wear zero now. Woo!
Zero.
Apparently, that was just never a thing. I don't know why it took so long for them to get zero, but
Yeah.
to each their own.
Odell Beckham making his promotional appearances and trying to get a job.
Which is so
Um,
weird. Not weird that he's going and like doing promotional, but that he needs to do it. Like I guess I just don't know.
I don't know. It's a weird situation. He's kind of a mercenary at this point, really.
I guess,
You
yeah,
know,
yeah. I
um,
think if he signs January 1st, it's gonna be the Jets, honestly, which is obvious thing to say,
I
but
think, yeah,
it's like it's weird that a player of his caliber is having to not beg for a job, but do this sort of work to get a job.
canvas.
Yeah, exactly. Canvas the NFL. Like, hey, do you want an all pro wide receiver, one healthy? Oh no, is you said no. Oh well, okay.
Well, go do you know?
On to the next one.
Yeah.
Yeah, the
Um,
Packers want to pay Odell a small contract around a prove it deal. Good to go for me, but that's not
yeah.
going to happen.
Yeah, I don't think there was a lot of other things that I saw that were kind of noteworthy.
Yeah,
It's been a quiet week outside of all that, and Packers bringing back Eric Wilson. The special teams rises again.
right.
Um, yeah, it's I don't know. We're what 4 weeks away from the draft, so we're still it's we're at the midpoint of everything.
Yeah. The 27th, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so a month from. Oh, it's actually 5 weeks from tomorrow, or today. I was listening to this, so it'll be exciting. I'm ready for it because I think the sooner it comes, the sooner we get Rodgers news, and that's kind of the news I'm hoping for. So it'll be good. It'll be good. Anything else, Jordan? Or should we wrap up this pod?
Let's wrap it up. We'll talk about Aaron Rodgers because he doesn't make up his fucking mind again next week. So
Alrighty, folks, you know the drill. A couple promotions to get through. The biggest promotion, without a doubt, is Cruising for a Bruising. The MLB season has started today. Brewers in Chicago playing the Cubs at Wrigley. We got GSPN correspondents there taking in the game in the troughs, taking in all the all the wonderful Chicago food. A big old Chicago dog. Get your
you'll
whatever you put
find
on a
that at a
Chicago dog.
trough.
Yeah, I don't know. Regardless, all that to say is to go listen to Cruising for a Bruising. Andrew and Adam are doing a wonderful job over there of dissecting Wisconsin's favorite baseball team, and you should go check it out as they begin to kick off their season with their first couple episodes filmed or recorded rather right here in Milwaukee as they come visit us in the Midwest this weekend. We are very excited. Also, go listen to the Bucks feed with Eurostep and Win in Six as the Bucks prepare for their playoff race. If I'm not mistaken, Jordan, there are 4 games or 5 games left after tonight. They play the Celtics on Thursday today, and then they have a game Saturday or just Sunday.
Just Sunday.
Okay. And then they have a couple more after that as the season begins to wind down. They try to lock up that 1 seed. So yourself and Adam, Ty, and Rohan have the Bucks coverage on lock. If you haven't, go check out Jordan and Rohan's interview with Bobby Portis. That is a must listen, as I might say. Also on the feed, the GSPN podcast network. That's redundant, regardless. Is make time for this. Go check out all of their wonderful Succession episodes as they get dropped weekly once Adam and Andrew get around to it. I think they have one in the hopper they're trying to record this weekend, possibly. But yeah, if you're a Succession watcher, you're gonna like those because I think all of us, sans Rohan, watch Succession, and Rohan wants to watch it. So I'm sure there might be a rotating cast of GSPNers on those Succession episodes. And lastly, Repod, as we kept saying throughout the last few months, go join Repod, talk about the pod over there, listen over there, you can do anything over there, and have a lot of fun while doing it. So, all right, folks, I gotta go blow my nose. Jordan, thank you so much for joining me. Everybody go like, subscribe this podcast, rate 5 stars, follow us on Twitter at Numac is known, at Jordan Tresky. And as always, thank you for listening. And Jordan, thank you.
Thank you.